up your ass, you'll floss your teeth with my shoelaces, nigga. Play with me, bruh. Don't play with me, bruh. Don't play with mine, bruh. Don't play with mine. Just don't play with mine.
I remember how you and Wallow were crying. You and Wallow were crying. Oh, my son. Oh, my son got killed. Oh, you were crying. Now you talking about snitching. You goddamn right I'm a law-abiding citizen.
Dang, I got family. I got willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with me, man?
Charleston White built his entire reputation on shock value and disrespect. But this time he chose the wrong target, T.I.'s son, King Harris. For years, Charleston has been running his mouth, mocking every move, and even crossing the line with threats that dragged Trayvon Martin's name into the mix, which left people outraged. When you bring a man's child into your act, you step into territory that cannot be undone. That is when T.I. finally drew the line. The Atlanta legend stepped forward, not as a rapper or entertainer, but as a father determined to protect his own. And this time, his message to Charleston White could not have been more clear.
To say about my son, what some grown man had to say about my son, man. Cause somebody please, just pull me up to speed, man. Just pull me up to speed. How some grown man had some to say about my son. Just pull me up to speed on that, man. Just pull me up to speed on that, man. What sucker ass grown is wasted his whole life doing absolutely nothing. Got something to say about my son at the beginning of his adult life.
Some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. Charleston thought he was just stirring up another storm when he went on his rant, calling King Harris a nobody and acting like he did not matter. But word around the streets is that Charleston completely miscalculated, assuming this would earn him his usual clicks and attention. What he failed to realize was that this could have been the final straw, because the disrespect toward King Harris was more than petty trolling, it revealed a deep-rooted jealousy.
I'm a nobody. Your son a nobody now.
People close to the situation have been whispering that Charleston's bitterness comes from watching a young king command the kind of respect and spotlight he never earned, not even during his so-called prime. At 48, with his platform shrinking and legal troubles piling up, Charleston started directing his frustration at King's charisma and growing influence, something he simply cannot compete with. Now the same man who once bragged about never being afraid to say what he wanted is allegedly scared to even log on, realizing he may have finally crossed a line that puts him in real danger. T.I. did not hold back either. He made it clear, saying Charleston White is so miserable in his own life that he attacks children just to stay relevant. Think about that, a grown man, nearly 50 years old, waking up every day with nothing better to do than hate on young men who actually have a future.
I ain't in no gang. I got family. I got who willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with me, man? Don't play with my child.
T.I. called out the double standards, making it clear that while King, barely 20 years old, is already earning respect, building opportunities, and winning people's support, Charleston's claim to fame is nothing more than stirring chaos and whining on the internet. And T.I. did not stop there. He ripped apart Charleston's entire image, dragging out his humiliating track record. This is the same man who snitched on his own crew, got locked up for spraying cats with pepper spray, and even got stomped out at comedy shows before dialing the cops for protection. That is not toughness, it is pure comedy. Now he has the nerve to complain about King Harris, when deep down he knows King embodies everything he will never touch: youth, talent, love, and the strength of family behind him.
I put my foot so far up your ass, you'll floss your teeth with my Don't play with me, bruh. Don't play with me, bruh.
T.I.'s words landed heavy because they carried the weight of truth. Charleston White has been clinging to relevance by tearing down successful black families, all while his own life falls apart piece by piece. After showing patience for so long, T.I. finally delivered a warning that left no room for confusion: play with my child, and that is it. No more games, no more tolerance. No more letting Charleston skate by with his tired rants, but Charleston's constant attacks are not just jealousy, they come from a man watching his entire world collapse. His so-called breakout moment in 2023 fizzled out almost as quickly as it came, and now his story is nothing but back-to-back legal problems. His career has been reduced to mugshots and meltdowns. In October 2024, Charleston White was arrested in Tarrant County, Texas, on charges of animal cruelty and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The animal cruelty charge stunned even his own followers. Reports say he pepper-sprayed a cat. That kind of cruelty showed how far gone he truly was. He was held without bond at the Lon Evans Correction Center, proof that authorities were treating it seriously. Then in February 2025, he landed back in jail on aggravated assault charges. Although he walked free a few days later, insisting the case had been dropped, the damage to his reputation was already done.
You ain't even going to jail again. He ain't grew up tough like his daddy.
The pattern could not be clearer: repeat offenses, reckless behavior, and no sign of slowing down. Through all of this chaos, T.I. has been watching closely, making one thing crystal clear: nobody will be allowed to use his son as a pawn for clout. People close to T.I. say he is ready to do whatever it takes to keep parasites like Charleston away from his family, no matter the cost. And when you put Charleston's own record under the spotlight, snitching on friends as a teenager, piling up arrests, getting dragged into fights, the irony becomes almost unbearable. A man with a history drenched in betrayals and courtroom drama actually thinks he has the right to judge King Harris? The hypocrisy is off the charts.
Mom and dad raised a yellow. Yeah, that nigga T.I. son say.
Charleston's backstory sheds light on how he ended up on such a twisted path. Born in Fort Worth, Texas, in 1977, his childhood was marked by violence and dysfunction. At only 14, he took part in a robbery that ended in a man's death, a decision that landed him in juvenile detention for 7 years. While locked up, he even lost his right eye in an accident. Growing up without a father only fueled his feelings of abandonment, adding more weight to the anger already inside him. That rage and dysfunction eventually became the foundation for the loudmouth provocateur the world sees today.
Boy, who did what, who, man, we was about to whoop when you come back down here, I'm telling you. Yo, I can see you had a soft.
Charleston did not build his presence on social media with talent or genuine advocacy, he built it on shock value. He threw dirt on the names of dead icons like DMX and even George Floyd just to grab clicks. He never earned a platform, he hijacked one through pure toxicity. That is why his attacks on young men like King Harris cut so deep. They are not random, they are fueled by Charleston's own unresolved pain. For all his claims about mentoring the youth, he consistently targets successful young black men, especially those with strong family support. And the reason is simple: that is everything he never had. By his own admission, he grew up feeling unloved and unwanted. Now he projects that emptiness onto young men who have what he always craved: respect, stability, and love.
This is they called the laws, and they came. He older.
Watching King Harris enjoy the young adulthood he never had eats away at Charleston, and that is why he refuses to let King live in peace. The feud between Charleston White and T.I. was never some calculated beef, it was the outburst of a desperate man watching his relevance slip through his fingers. In his panic, he picked the wrong family to target. By late 2022, Charleston's momentum was already fading, his name kept alive only by shock tactics and reckless rants. His entire online persona was built on stirring chaos, but as the buzz started dying down, he went searching for a bigger target. That search led him to make the fatal mistake of locking onto T.I.'s family. On October 8, 2022, Charleston launched into one of his trademark unhinged tirades, this time taking aim not only at King Harris but also at Boozy Badass's son, Tootie Raw. Both young men had just faced legal trouble, and when King was arrested in September 2022, Charleston pounced on that vulnerability like a predator circling wounded prey.
Don't play with mine. I ain't finna say no name. I don't play police game. If I go to jail, it's gonna be for something. It's gonna be for something. I don't play no police game, man. I don't play no police game.
Instead of offering guidance, the very thing he always pretends to stand for to Charleston went straight for the jugular, mocking appearances and predicting failure with cruel delight. That was not tough talk. That was bullying, plain and simple. And it exposed exactly what fuels him. Charleston thrives on tearing down young black men who embody everything he never was, but this time, he was not facing a silent victim. King Harris, unlike most people who ignore internet trolls, had the backbone to fire back. On October 9, 2022, just one day after Charleston's rant, King went live on Instagram and called him out. He labeled Charleston a snitch and a coward who preyed on youth for attention. King did not roll in the mud with cheap insults. Instead, he calmly pulled Charleston's past into the spotlight, reminding everyone how he had cooperated with law enforcement and even bragged about it.
T.I. and Charleston White are back in the news. It seems like they're setting up a boxing match between each other. Guess T.I. didn't like what Charleston White had to say about his son King.
At just 18 years old, King Harris showed more composure and maturity than a man nearly 50. That public humiliation cut deeper than any insult, because it shattered Charleston's tough guy facade in front of everyone. He could not stomach being outclassed by a teenager, but instead of backing down, Charleston revealed just how twisted he really is. On October 10, 2022, he doubled down, escalating his attacks into threats that left people stunned. He invoked Trayvon Martin's name, dragged George Zimmerman into the conversation, and crossed into territory that should have ended his career on the spot.
Everybody know, homie. That man say he a 7-time convicted felon in one song. 7 convicted felon. I would say 7.
This was no longer trolling. This was a grown man making threats against a rapper's child while exploiting one of the most painful cases in modern black history. Fans were disgusted, saying Charleston had finally gone too far, even for him. Using racial trauma and tragedy as weapons against a teenager exposed just how dangerous his brand of shock jock content had become, and it did not stop with words. Charleston bragged that he reached out to Atlanta police and even Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis, trying to get King arrested. For a man who loves to parade himself as someone helping the youth, his eagerness to push a teenager deeper into the system was hypocrisy on another level. That move confirmed what many had long suspected: Charleston never cared about guiding young men. He wanted to break them. When T.I. learned about these threats, any patience he once had went straight out the window.
Man who ain't got going on, ain't got no real talent, can't do nothing but kick up dust and wait on that fall down so they get dirty and some clout get to them. I know that's how get paid.
On October 10, 2022, T.I. fired back with intensity, making it clear that Charleston had crossed a line he could never walk back from. This was no longer about music, comedy, or publicity. This was a father protecting his child with the kind of fury that only comes from love. T.I.'s protective side roared to life. At that point, he was focused on comedy shows and expanding his career beyond rap. But the moment Charleston tried to endanger King, Tip slipped right back into warrior mode. He told the world, plain and simple, that he was willing to risk his freedom, his reputation, and everything he had if it meant protecting his son. That is the difference between the two men. T.I. has everything to lose, while Charleston has nothing left but a loud mouth. The contrast was painful, one man fighting for family, the other lashing out because he does not have one. After the threats, the situation could have cooled down. There was even a phone call between the two on October 10th meant to squash the beef. But true to form, Charleston fumbled it. Instead of using the chance to de-escalate, he bragged that the call went nowhere and used it as fuel to stir up even more chaos. Then came the most absurd stunt of all. He challenged T.I. to a celebrity boxing match, demanding Steve Harvey as the referee and even suggesting T.I. wear an eye patch so it would be fair. Imagine that: a man threatens a child, then tries to flip it into a pay-per-view circus for clout. It exposed everything about his mindset. While T.I. was thinking about his son's safety, Charleston thought this was entertainment. Throughout the feud, Charleston leaned on one of his favorite smears, accusing T.I. of being a federal informant because of his involvement with Crime Stoppers back in 2007 after his gun case. But the hypocrisy was so blatant, it blew up in his face. This was the same Charleston White who had testified against his own co-defendants and bragged about cooperating with police as a teenager. Attacking T.I. for doing a community safety campaign was laughable. It was projection at its purest form. Everything Charleston accused T.I. of, he was guilty of himself. The more he pushed the Crime Stoppers narrative, the more desperate he looked, because everyone saw the contradiction. By November 2022, T.I. had already responded through music. When he jumped on Juicy Fruit's track, fans immediately recognized it as a Charleston White diss. The bars cut sharp without resorting to filth, dismantling Charleston's credibility with precision and class. It was a master move, showing that T.I. could address the situation with artistry instead of gutter-level insults, but Charleston completely missed the point. In a shocking twist, he actually praised the song and begged to be on the remix. That is how desperate he was. Even being dissed by a superstar felt like a win, because to him, humiliation still meant attention. Watching it unfold was like watching someone so thirsty for relevance that even being mocked became fuel, and that is the cycle Charleston thrives on. Every clapback, every insult, every attempt to shut him down, he flips it into content. For him, hate is oxygen. Without attention, he is nothing. That is why he keeps circling back to King Harris. Whenever King stumbles or faces challenges, Charleston swoops in, waiting for a vulnerable moment to attack with maximum cruelty, then cries victim when the backlash hits. His playbook never changes: provoke, mock, then flip it into sympathy when people push back. The truth is, Charleston does not know how to exist without hate. His obsession with King Harris never ended in 2022. It kept resurfacing, always timed to King's life transitions or public struggles. That is the disturbing part. Charleston does not strike randomly. He waits for weakness. Whenever King faces negative headlines or controversy, Charleston appears like a vulture, hurling the nastiest insults just to remind people he is still around. For someone who claims to uplift the youth, his actions prove the opposite. He is not mentoring. He is hunting, targeting the sons of successful rappers because they embody everything his own broken life denied him. Peel back the layers and it becomes clear this is bigger than King Harris. It is about Charleston's obsession with tearing down successful black families. Charleston has admitted he grew up unloved, unwanted, and rejected. Those scars are still raw, and they fuel his bitterness today. He never had a father, never had stability, never had that sense of family pride. So when he sees T.I. guiding his children and giving them the support he never knew, it burns him inside. That is why he zeroes in on King. The young man symbolizes love, opportunity, and a future Charleston can never touch. And instead of healing his own trauma, he projects it outward, trying to drag others into the same misery he is drowning in. The feud's escalation revealed something else too: how completely out of touch Charleston is with reality. Threatening a teenager with violent references, then trying to turn it into a celebrity boxing event revealed just how warped his sense of boundaries really is. To him, everything is content, even the safety of somebody's child. Meanwhile, T.I. showed the opposite energy. Every time Charleston pushed, T.I. responded with the seriousness of a man protecting his family legacy. While Charleston tried to milk the feud for laughs, streams, and views, T.I. made it clear that his son's safety is not entertainment. That difference is why people rallied behind T.I. The streets respect real fatherhood, not clout chasing disguised as truth-telling. What is wild is how Charleston keeps trying to reinvent his attacks to stretch out his fame. One week it is mocking King's appearance. The next it is accusing T.I. of being an informant. Then it is threatening legal action. It is a carousel of nonsense designed to keep people talking about him. But the more he pulls these stunts, the more people see through him. He is not some fearless truth-teller. He is a desperate man running out of relevance. Even his so-called supporters start shaking their heads when he crosses lines that no entertainer should. The Trayvon Martin comments proved he does not have limits. And once you hit that point, you cannot walk it back. That is why now even his online presence feels shaky, because every time he goes live, people expect another meltdown, another reckless comment that pushes him further into a corner. And through all this, King Harris has not folded. The young man continues to push forward, carving his own lane despite the constant jabs. When he clapped back in 2022, it was not just a defense. It was a statement that he will not let trolls define him. He stood up with composure and did not stoop to the same level. And that maturity exposed Charleston even more. Watching a teenager handle pressure with grace while a grown man melts down in public tells you everything you need to know about both sides. King has family, opportunities, and a future. Charleston has controversy, mugshots, and regret. The irony in all this is that Charleston claims to be an activist, someone who helps the youth stay out of trouble. But how can you claim mentorship when your actions prove the opposite? How can you say you guide kids, then attack them publicly, try to get them arrested, and make threats on their lives? It is a walking contradiction. His past involvement with violence, arrests for animal cruelty, and constant legal troubles show he has not grown past his own chaos. Instead, he monetized it, selling his dysfunction as entertainment. And now, with the world watching him spiral, it is clear his story is less about leadership and more about wasted potential. In the end, this feud exposed two very different realities. On one side, T.I., a father, a provider, a man willing to risk it all to protect his child. On the other, Charleston White, a provocateur desperate to hold on to relevance, even if it means dragging kids into his storm. The contrast could not be sharper, and that is why people continue to side with T.I. You do not need to be a fan of his music or comedy to understand his position. At the heart of this drama is a simple truth. A father's duty to protect his family outweighs the antics of a man who already lost everything that truly matters. And that is what makes this story bigger than gossip. It is about boundaries, about what should not be crossed, no matter how hungry you are for clout. Charleston White thought he could turn his attacks on King Harris into another viral moment, but instead he exposed the fragility of his own platform. T.I.'s warning was clear. Play with my child and there will be consequences. And that is a message anybody with kids can understand. No matter how famous or streetwise you are, when someone targets your family, all bets are off. Charleston found that out the hard way. And the scars of this feud will follow him far longer than any viral rant or desperate stunt. So, while Charleston keeps chasing his next headline, the truth is already written. His story is one of a man who had opportunities to grow but chose chaos instead. T.I.'s story is one of a father standing firm for his blood, refusing to let jealousy or bitterness harm what he built. And King Harris's story is just getting started, with resilience, maturity, and the kind of strength that proves he is more than ready for the spotlight, no matter how many trolls try to dim it.